So today I want to build a sequencing setup that is somewhat inspired by the Moog Subharmonicon, and there are two main ideas I want to show you. The first one is having two different clock divisions driving the same sequencer and by that generating unique rhythms. And the second idea is to have two short sequences that run at different rates but affect the same voice. So from two simple sequences, you get something more complex. I will quickly mention that I started a document collecting the different ideas from the videos on this channel. Also, the ideas we will experiment with today are there. So if you're interested, it's available on my Patreon, links in the description. So today we will use, as you can see, the node grid. Already something we have to do is turn polyphony off here in the inspector. Instead of 8 voices, I will have it monophonic, otherwise it will not work as expected. Now let's start building one sequencer. For this, we will use the value module under the level here. We have here value. We will set it to be bipolar, right? So we can set the pitch up, but also down. For now, I will name this step A1, right? And then we will have 4 of them. We will have a sequence with 4 steps. And now just quickly, I will change the names here to A1, A2, A3, and A4. Right, so we will have 2 sequences of 4 steps. Again, very similar to the ones here on the Subharmonicon. Right, now we have 4 values, but we need to switch between them, to sequence between them. And for this, we will use the merge module. I'm not so sure why it's called merge actually, but with it we can switch between different signals, send them to one destination. Right, so again, we have 4 steps or 4 values, and I will need to have also 4 steps or 4 inputs here. So here we can change this to 4, and now we have 4 inputs, and we can connect step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. Right, and now we need a signal to tell the merge when to switch. For this, we will use, for now, the actual phase signal. So I will use from the input-output the phase in. Right, and since we want to have multiple variations of it, multiple ratios of it, so we can drive both sequences at different rates, we will use also the phase scaler, this one here. Right, with this module, we can scale the phase or the clock in this case and get various divisions and multiplications of it. So the ratio for now we have here, as you can see, will stay 1:1, so the phase coming in will be the same coming out. And if I connect the phase just like this to the merge module here, to this switcher, right, and I hit play, you can see that the merge will actually crossfade between the values instead of switching between them, right, like a sequencer. So for this, we have to set, again, the merge module, instead of linear, we have to set this to nearest, and now, as you can see, it will switch between the values, it will switch between the steps of this sequencer that we've built. Right now, I would like to have actually 2 clocks driving each sequencer, right? So on the Subharmonicon, as you can see, we can assign 4 different variations to one sequence. Now, I think that 4 is a bit too much, so we will stay with 2, but it can be a bit tricky when using a phase signal. So I prefer to use actual triggers. I can then combine with logic. So I will disconnect. We will not use the phase to drive the switch or the merge module, right? Instead, we will use the counter module, right? This one here. This module will convert triggers back into phase, right? So in this case, we will use the triggers out of the scaler module, right? And we will set the counter to have 4 steps, because again, we have 4 steps here also on the sequencer itself. Right, and now we get back a phase signal that again we can use to switch between the steps. Now let's try and already listen to this. So I will connect the same triggers also to trigger the voice that I have here. I will show you in a second which voice. So again, we are using the node grid, and we have the gate output that will come in this case from the same signal here from the scaler. The voice I have here is a sort of a multi-layer voice. I have here the polymer, I have here a polysynth, I have a hi-hat just for some percussive noise at the transients, and another polysynth, and all of this is going through a nice filter, and delay and reverb. Right, already I will change the rate of the scaler to something, let's say like 8. So we get eighth notes or clock resolution of eighth notes. Right, and now we need also to connect the pitch, right, from the sequencer that we've built. So first of all, I will use the pitch scaler just to make it easier to stay in a certain range. And actually I will take this also in octave up. So we have C3 to C5. And also I will use, of course, a quantizer, the pitch quantize, so I can stay in a certain scale. I will just select the notes that I want. These will be the notes that we will use. Right, and this will go to the pitch input, right, or the pitch output actually here that will sequence our voice. So if now I hit play, I can change the steps. Right, and we have a 4-step sequence. Right, we can go down also because we have bipolar steps here. Right, I will stop this for a second. So now we have one 4-step sequence, but again, for now it runs with just one clock source. So what we can do, we can duplicate or we can have another scaler. Right, and first of all, I would like to have everything in sync. So we will need to reset everything each time we hit play. For this, we can use the transport playing module. Here under inputs, outputs, we have transport playing. This module will output a trigger whenever we hit play that will then reset both scalar modules, right, 1 and 2, and also the counter. And now again, I would like to combine both rhythms, both clocks to drive this one sequencer. And for this, we need to do a few things. First of all, we need to combine the triggers. This we can do with OR logic. This one here. OR logic will output a trigger or a gate whenever one incoming signal or gate is high, or the other is high, or both are high, which basically means that we combine both streams of gates into one stream. Right, so one signal will come, let me make some space here, one signal will come from one scaler, the second signal will come from the second scaler. Right, and this will go then back to the counter. So now we combine basically both scalars into one stream of gates. Now, this is actually not enough because for now the phase scalars will output gates that stay open a bit too long for the OR module to work correctly. If one gate stays open too long, the OR module will just ignore the other gate. That's not what we want. But all we need is to add the gate length module in between. Right, if I make here again a bit space, we have here the gate length. Just add this in between, no need to change anything. This will convert the longer gates into shorter gates, more like triggers, so the OR module can work as expected. Now there's another thing we have to set up. For now, only the upper scaler will gate the voice, right? This is the one that's connected. Right, only the upper scaler, right, but we actually need to take the gates from the OR module, so we get both streams, right, so the gate output will come again from the OR module. And now we can start having polyrhythms, so for example, 3/2, all we have to do is change the ratios, so here we'll have a ratio of 1:3, here a 1:2, right, and now those two streams of triggers in this case will run the same sequence. Have a listen to this. Right, so we have a polyrhythm running one sequence, which is already quite interesting. We can change this even further. Let me make something like this. Right, we can have, let's say, 5/3. Right, we have also to reset everything, so we just stop it. 5/3, it will sound like this. Right, we can even go with 16th notes instead of 8th notes, so it's running a bit quicker, right? Just the rate to change to 16. Right, so we have a polyrhythm running one sequence. But again, this is just half the fun because now we will have two of these sequences and both will drive the same voice. So what I will do, I will duplicate this whole setup from the scalars, including the merge module here, right? All of this, just Control D. Maybe take this down one. Right, to make this easier, maybe I will just color them differently for a second. So this will be, let's say, orange, and this can be green. Also, really quickly, I will change here the steps from A to B. And now, first of all, I would like to add both sequences together so both will affect the same voice. This I can do by connecting them to the pitch scaler by holding Control, right? We have one sequence is already going here to the pitch scaler. Now I will connect the second one while holding Control. And then you will see, right, it added the add module, right? So it will add both sequences, all of the values, it will add them together. Right, so now if I play this, the second sequence will also affect the steps. But we can also set different ratios for the second sequence and by that get a longer result altogether. Right, so in this case for the second setup here, let's go with 9/7. And also here we need to use these scalars to gate the voice, right? So we have to combine now both setups, and this we will do with another OR logic. Right, so again we have one setup or the other, right, will come again from the OR module and this will gate our voice. Right, so now both setups are combined. We have here two clocks, here two clocks, so we have two different polyrhythms running two different sequences, but at the end they are all combined into one complex sequence. Let's have a listen to this. Right, again, these are just 4-step sequences. Very simple sequences, but again, because of the polyrhythms that are running them, and because we combine them, the values are added together into one complex sequence. We get something a bit that sounds at least longer and is a bit more complex. Right, I have here a few more voices just to put this in context. I have here a bass with another polysynth, an arpeggiator with a polymer, and some drums. Right, I will play a bit with the filter here. Right, so you can hear the complex result we are getting, and that's it. Once again, go check out the document if you're interested. This session is also available on my Patreon with the different presets. Thank you for watching. Cheers.